Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of Friday Morning at the Fun House alongside Mr. Martin Popoff. What's going on, my friend?
Looking forward to this somber episode that we've got planned here on a very cold, somber, snowy Toronto morning. So,
Yes, well, the sun is shining here in the
oh
Hudson
yeah,
Valley, but yeah, we had a little bit of snow the other day. Not a lot. They called for like 4 to 8 inches, and we got like maybe two.
yeah,
So whatever. But it's cold.
I
I
know,
think it
I
is
know.
right now. I went out a little while ago. I went to go get a haircut. It was like 10. I think now it's like 15 or something like that.
Yeah, I got to go do a record show in this on Sunday, so I got to pack up the
Uh,
car tomorrow and you take it and unload it and all that sort of stuff. And I was remiss on getting my winter tires done soon enough. So my appointment is for
that's right. You
December
guys have to do
11th.
that all the time, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I should have done it a long time ago, but yeah, my guys get full up, and then that's the problem. So,
There you
anyways,
go.
hopefully it's good. So,
Speaking of record shows, I have one. Dan Brown, owner of the Warehouse, is having a record show tomorrow in the afternoon. So I'm gonna go pop by that for a little bit, see what he's got going on over there. He's got a whole bunch of vendors. I'm like, oh, cool. Why not?
yeah, I saw your other show of going to that craft show or whatever it was, right?
Yeah, that was kind of
Yeah,
cool. Yeah, there's all these little things happening in the area right
yeah.
now. It's kind of nice. So today we figure this is our last episode of the year, where Martin and I are going to take a couple week break for the holiday and come back with you on early January. But we kind of wanted to kind of take a look back at some rockers that we lost this year that you may be surprised that are no longer with us. Maybe you hadn't heard about it. These are certainly some folks that I didn't particularly talk about and do a tribute show, right? These are some of the under the radar folks who have left us. And I was actually kind of surprised to see some of these people on the list as well. And let me tell you, the list is long. Martin and I took a look at it, this huge list of people who are no longer with us. And, we covered some of them. Some of them are like, wow, they're not with us anymore. And some of them are more obscure artists and musicians that's like, oh, shit, they passed away. That's kind of sad. So we're going to kind of talk about a bunch. We've got roughly, what, 10 each or so, Martin, I think?
11 each
11 each.
because
Yep.
you added one at the end, so I added
I
one.
did.
So,
Yeah. And one just passed away yesterday or day and a half ago. 2 days ago, actually, fairly notable name, and I'll probably talk about that person first when I after Martin
okay.
goes here. So I'll turn it over to Martin.
Yeah, so this is going to be one of those episodes, unfortunately, that Pete's going to talk about a lot of people that I don't know a lot about, and I'm sure I'm going to talk about some people that Pete doesn't know a lot about. But I know listeners, watchers do appreciate when we widen the scope and we talk about these other bands. But we'll be quick. So we've got 11 each. So my first one is, and again, the idea was we wanted to do this is tributes for people that we essentially didn't do a show on. I mean, I did a couple of these on Contrarians, but we didn't do one together on this. I don't think Pete, you probably are all of yours. You haven't done a show on, right?
Right.
Right. So okay. So my very first one is Rick Buckler from the Jam. The Jam is one of my favorite bands of all time. I play these guys constantly. They're the only band of the mod revival, essentially. I always joke that the mod revival consists of the Who movie, Quadrophenia, and the Jam, and everything else isn't very good. But this is just such a great Kinks like Who like band. And I think it's what 5 albums total or something. And yeah, we lost the drummer February 17th, age 69. Brief illness. I did a little research. I couldn't find a cause of death, but yeah, they were just a trio, same lineup the entire time, and yeah, just a great band, and 69's a little young to be seeing him leave us from a band that's essentially a late 70s band. But yeah, I absolutely recommend these guys if you are a Kink Stones Faces Who kind of fan. They're not particularly a punk band. It's very literary. It's very Ray Davies like, very rhythmic. It's got a lot of Northern soul to it, some Beatles to it. Hard hitting Beatles sort of sound to them as well. But just a really well regarded, huge band in the UK. But yeah, they didn't do much over here.
Not at all. Yeah, I worked with a couple guys back when I was in college. I worked in a kitchen of a Mexican restaurant, a
Mhm.
little side job while I was going to school, and two of them were like huge fans of the Jam, and I was always kind of like, yeah, it's not really my jam personally, but
Mhm.
they love
Yeah,
it. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. All right, so my first pick today is we just lost him just the other day on December 3rd, age 84, Steve Cropper. one of the great guitar players of all time and a basically member of the Stax Records house band for many, many years. This is a guy who played with everybody, of course, known mostly for being the guitar player and songwriter of Booker T and the MGs. Really tasty player. Rolling Stone, I think, named him in their top 100 guitar players of all time. Growing up for me, I always remember Steve Cropper being a member of the Blues Brothers, right? That was my introduction to Steve Cropper. But I remember the Green Onion song was always really popular. But I remember seeing Steve playing with the Blues Brothers and thinking how cool he was. Always had the tie on, the long straight hair, right? The Telecaster guitar or the Strat guitar. And again, he is one of those guys who basically could slot in any genre, played on tons of albums from tons of artists across all walks of life, all different styles of music, from R&B, soul, blues, rock, you name it. Steve Cropper, absolute legend. And like I said, we just lost him the other day at the age of 84. So rest in peace, Steve Cropper, one of the absolute greats.
Yeah, he's a guy I didn't really know much about. He kind of fits into that Chris Spedding, Big Jim Sullivan camp for me of just these guys that you just hear these names all the time. I just remember he never looked the part. He looked like a Southern rocker kind of thing.
Totally, yes.
Yeah. All right. My next choice is David Johansen. I did do a Contrarians tribute. There he is in the middle there. And solo album.
Yep.
First solo album. This is probably my favorite solo album. I think it's the third or no, fourth solo album, fourth and last. But yeah, New York Dolls, cancer, brain tumor. There was a lot on social media about him, even from the hospital when he was there, February 28th, age 75. Just loved his whole style, his shouty, Mick Jagger, Mike Monroe kind of vocal. He kind of slots in right between the two. He had that great look, that kind of Aerosmith look, great front man, a lot of style, a lot of New York swagger to him as well. And New York Dolls even reformed and did three studio albums. Is granted it was just him and Sil, but they did three studio albums that are quite liked. We had a Contrarian show about what was it about? Anyways, I think Alex, somebody on there was talking about his high regard for those later albums. So it was good to see him work. And of course, we know him as Buxter Poindexter as well, bit of an actor. But yeah, love those first New York Dolls albums to death, and then the solo career is pretty cool too. And yeah, so February 28th, age 75.
Perfect example of someone who completely recreated themselves and the
Yeah.
whole Buxton Poindexter thing. I mean, and you know what? Pretty damn good actor too, I thought.
Yeah, he was.
Who really got into his characters like
Yeah.
in a big way. I still think him in the Scrooge movie, man. He was so good in that. So good in that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to see him live once. He opened up for The Who and The Clash at Shea Stadium back in what was that, 1980,
Nice.
81? Yeah, it was that first farewell tour from The Who, right? God, that was 45 years ago, the first farewell
Mm.
tour, right? They're still
Wow.
doing farewell tours all these
Yeah.
years later. All right, next up, she left us on January 30th, very early in the year at the age 79, singer and actress Marianne Faithfull. So, of course, probably best known for a couple of things, right? A, she was the girlfriend of Mick Jagger for a bunch of years. And also, she had that big single in the UK, As Tears Go By, which was a monster hit for her. She's a very acclaimed singer, has a bunch of best-selling albums back in the 70s, and one of the true kind of early, like, rock and roll beauties, right? As a girlfriend or wife of a famous rock star. I think she was one of the first. And yeah, but did lots of acting throughout her career as well. And I don't know if there was an actual cause of death listed for her, Martin, but I know she had emphysema. She got COVID really bad as well. And I think she also had breast cancer for a while. So I'm not sure ultimately what was the cause of her passing. But yeah, age 79, lived a good long life, left us right at the beginning of the year. Marianne Faithfull.
Yeah, and that very ragged voice. I remember having that
Yes.
one with her face on the cover there, late 70s, early 80s. That album that was kind of a big deal. There was a bit of a resurgence for her, but yes. Okay, so my next one is Brian James from The Damned. So there's The Damned there. Which one is Brian on here? He'd be over here, right? Um, and he's the guitarist there. Um, So he's essentially the leader of the Damned on the highly regarded debut, and then he is also on this second one as well, Music for Pleasure. And I got to interview him a couple of times. Super nice guy. He's like, hey, here's my phone number. Call me anytime. He's very soft spoken, but he's literally one of the guys who invented punk because he was there in London SS, which was a configuration of these bands kicking off early '75, I think. So he was kind of part of that. So he came in, and the Damned was the first band to come over from the UK to play here, first band to have a single out. Hang on, does it work? First album, maybe not. I think first album possibly as well, but they have a lot of firsts. They're really early, and then he was out of the band. But then he had Lords of the New Church as well, and oh, what is it called? There's you can go on Spotify. He put out a bunch of solo albums, but there's one called the Blood That Killed the Guitar, something like that. Anyways, that solo album is just amazingly authentic, grinding, really cool, punky, and he's got a really distinct guitar sound. I'm super impressed every time I play that. So yeah, he had the situation, the Damned, but Lords of the New Church as well was his band. So no cause of death, although the family was around him, so it wasn't sudden. March 6th, age 74 for Brian James. The last thing I want to say about him, he did come back for one of the reunion tours, and you can see that footage online. But he looks pretty fragile up there. I mean, right now, the Damned is firing on all guns, and Rat Scabies is back, and there's a lot of energy in the band. But yeah, you look at those shows they did with the original band, and you can tell he's kind of fragile even in that on those game shows.
Okay. All right, next up, Jamie Muir, of course, percussionist, most known as the percussionist in King Crimson. Appeared on the Lark's Tongues and Aspic album, only album he appeared on with the band, played alongside Bill Bruford there. He left us on February 17th at the age of 79. No real cause of death listed other than he had a fall while he was doing some sort of performance thing. In later years, of course, he became like a painter and a sculptor. So I'm not sure exactly what performance he was doing at that point in time, but he was kind of an interesting character with King Crimson because he would do these when he was playing his various percussive things. He was very animated on stage, and here you have this band where most everybody, Fripp just kind of sits still and doesn't move a hell of a lot. Wetton's up there at the microphone playing his bass, and there you have Jamie Muir doing all these crazy things in the background. He added like an interesting element to the band, but he only stuck around for that one album and tour, and then they did not replace him in the band. They just went with Bill Bruford as the sole drummer percussionist in the band. So short time, but still very notable because Lark's Tongues and Aspic is one of the great King Crimson albums in the history of their discography. So Jamie Muir, February 17th, age 79.
And Bill Bruford loved that guy. He said he learned a lot from him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, they work very well together. Actually, it's yeah,
yeah. All right, my next one is Les Binks
yeah.
from the great Judas Priest. Got to interview him as well for my Judas Priest book, and it was great to see him coming back and being part of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame thing. I didn't really expect that. And then he was playing with KK for a bit there too. So he came back as as a performing, energetic, playing this complicated, hard, heavy music again, which was cool to see. But he's also a co-writer on Beyond the Realms of Death. And then I think he kind of fell out of the band due to sort of money concerns. They were asking him to do the, not get paid anything for the live album. I remember at the time that was part of it that he complained about. But he's a huge part of these albums. The drumming is just nicely technical. He doesn't do a full on Simon Phillips on these records. It's more like he's doing a good balance between just tasty, good drum parts and some good complication in there as well. So yeah, he's a big reason why these are two of the greatest heavy metal albums of all time.
And I remember his death came as kind of a shock because, he was part of the initial lineup of KK's Priest, and then he kind of dropped out of that, and they had talked about perhaps him getting involved again, and then you heard he passed away. So it was like, wow.
That's right. Yes, 73 years old, so not that old, March 15th. So you're right. He was kind of like participating in our lives for those last few years a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. All right, next up, Simon House. Of course, violinist, best known for his many years playing in Hawkwind, but he also played with David Bowie on the Lodger album. He played on the Stage album as well. He also was a member of High Tide, very cool early kind of heavy prog band. That was before his Hawkwind time. He also did a spell in Mike Oldfield's band, played in the Third Ear band as well. I think when you look at the career of Simon House, probably the albums he's most well known for is those classic Hawkwind albums like Hall of the Mountain Grill, Warrior on the Edge of Time, Astounding Sounds, Amazing Music, and Quark, Strangeness and Charm. Those are like those classic Hawkwind albums that he was a part of. He also played quite a bit with Nick Turner. After Nick Turner left Hawkwind, and the two of them did lots of recordings together. He had a bunch of solo albums. Really, really good violin player. Also played some keyboards and things like that. And again, no real cause of death listed for him, but he did leave us on May 25th at the age of 76.
Yeah, and he's quite known for that high tide situation as well, for
Yeah.
playing kind of like heavy violin, right?
Yeah, heavy. Yeah, those
For
albums are
making
pretty
those.
rocking. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, my next one is Dave Allen of Gang of Four. Love Gang of Four. Still play this band all the time. They are a post-punk band. This is the classic debut album of theirs, and we actually lost Andy Gill as well, the guitarist in 2020. So kind of this is another late 70s band, and two of them are gone. We still have Hugh, and we've got John still in the band, but people love this band. They're super critically acclaimed band for being kind of like a noisy art rock, rhythmic, punk, post-punk sort of originators. They're not a punk band at all. This first album is 79. It's well after punk is done, but then they get kind of funky and dubby and stuff. They got some female vocals later on, but I just find myself reaching for this stuff quite often to play. I got to meet all those guys when they played the Phoenix here in Toronto. That was cool, but yeah, super critically acclaimed band. I'd say check them out if you're intrigued at all about what post punk means and where it came from. So
Cool. Atomic Stife, otherwise known as Guido Richter. He drummer, most known for being the drummer of German thrash legend Sodom. He played on their Get What You Deserve albums and Masquerade in Blood albums. Not a lengthy time in the band. That's his most well-known stuff. He played for other bands as well, but he passed away August 31st at the age of 57. So pretty young. Very not a lot of information on his passing, so you have to wonder if like suicide might have been a part of this, but don't really know. There's not a lot of news on this, but yeah, way too young to go. But yeah, classic Sodom drummer from the early days. August 31st, age 57. Atomic Stife.
all right, I forgot to mention. So Dave Allen, age 69. It was early onset dementia with him, I think is what happened. So, okay, my next one. Here's someone I'm sure we don't talk about too much on Sea of Tranquility. David Thomas from Pere Ubu. And I didn't even pull out Pere Ubu albums for this to show. I pulled out Dave Thomas albums. So there you go. Um, and so who he is, there's another one. Maybe some of these have been rarely shown on YouTube at all, but there you go. So he had a lot of these different band configurations. So Perubu is known as a post punk, one of the very earliest post punk bands, noise rock bands, slightly punky, I suppose, from Cleveland, starting 75ish maybe. I think they had singles in 77 first or 76 first album. I think is 77. But yeah, big kind of irascible, overweight guy, gruff, and got to meet him here in Toronto as well. And many different illnesses. Complication from kidney disease is cited April 23rd. We lost him age 71, but kind of a very creative, fearlessly creative band, both of them, his solo situation and Pere Ubu, kind of a Captain Beefheart sort of guy, right? Very kind of loopy, silly, strange singing style and lyrics. Um, but yeah, known as kind of a gruff guy, a man of few words sort of thing. But yeah, just kind of went through life with this great career of creativity that made them, Perubu, a fairly significant cult band, but pretty absolutely not accessible at all, kind of
No.
thing. Yeah,
I remember the few times I've ventured into their music, I'm kind of like, what is this?
yeah, yeah.
All right. Dave Cousins from Straubs, uh, July 13th, age 85. He was up there. So of course, founding member, singer, guitarist of the Straubs, songwriter, who were this fairly significant British kind of folk rock band, sort of prog band. He had a very distinct vocal style. You either loved it or you didn't. I personally, his voice never really clicked with me. But there are some Straubs albums that I think are pretty cool. Like I said, there's the early, really folky stuff, and then they started to incorporate keyboards. And Rick Wakeman was in the band for a couple of albums, and they had this more symphonic sound with lots of mellotron. Albums like Dragonfly, Hero and Heroine, From the Witchwood, Grave New World, Ghosts. Right, these are all some of their more notable records. But he had been sick for a while. He had been battling cancer, and then he had various surgeries and things like that. And I'm not sure exactly what he passed away from, but I know he was not well for a number of years, and there were a lot of things that were contributing to his health failing for him. So yeah, July 13th, at the age of 85, lived a nice long life. Dave Cousins leaves us this year as well.
hmm Okay. Next I've got George Kuymans from Golden Earring. Love Golden Earring. Love that show we did together on Golden Earring.
Yeah,
It was pretty interesting how I loved all of these late 70s, early 80s albums, and you like the earlier stuff
early
more, but
ones.
these
Yeah,
are two of my favorites. It's a band people have asked me many times, oh, you should do a book on them. And sadly, I've never interviewed anybody from this band. I've always appreciated them, but they were never particularly big over here. Of course, we had Twilight Zone from Cut, but I highly recommend just really well put together, varied hard rock. You might even say the product mix is a bit like Blue Oyster Cult. On these records. But there are some of I think just some of the greatest written songs of all time, like just well written songs where I play some of these and go, I would love to have seen the Rolling Stones cover them, a song here or there or whatever. There's ones that sound like that to me. But it's a little bit like King's X, where we talk about bands that should have been a smash hit,
yeah,
because certainly these later albums, I hear two or three songs on here that they should have been handed off to other people, more famous people to do, because they're just beautifully well put together songs, so hooky. And then or them themselves that could have been bigger, but they're Dutch, right? So they're from away, and they didn't move to America or anything like
yeah.
that. But yeah, just good classy. I don't particularly, the guitar work of George doesn't particularly come off the top of my head, because it was all to serve the song, uh, which was the
A
great thing
very good
about him.
player, though. Yeah, we're very good at what he did. Yeah, a hugely
Yeah,
underrated band that is sadly really known for two songs and not much else. And
yeah,
I think, they had their periods, like the early stuff is of its time and whatnot, but I think they eventually just became a great rock band. You bring up the Rolling Stones, which I think is a great comparison, because this band just wrote great rock songs. There's nothing,
yeah,
they weren't metal, they weren't really hard. They were hard rock early on, they were psychedelic early on, but they just did
yeah,
great rock music. And I don't think they really got the recognition that they deserved, sadly. But a lot of people do really dig them, which I
yeah.
found over the
So
years.
we lost him he had an ALS diagnosis in
Yeah,
2021, and we lost him July 22nd, age 77.
yep. Yeah, interesting how ALS, some people come down with that and they go fairly quickly, and other people live with that for a really, really long time, which has got
Mhm.
to be brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, next up, Terry Draper, founding member, drummer for Canadian prog pop band Klaatu. Right. So he left us on May 15th, age 73, played on all the classic Klaatu albums. Not a band that really made big headwaves here in the States, but fairly popular in Canada. I think all of their albums are made the Canadian top 100 albums or top 50. Played on 347 EST, Hope, Sir Army Suite, Endangered Species, and Magenta Lane. Klaatu, a very interesting band. You know, early on, there were like these rumors that they were secretly the Beatles, right? Because they played in this kind of like pop meets
Yeah.
art rock, psychedelic rock style. Then they became a little bit more proggy. It's interesting how we had both Badfinger and Klaatu, who were supposedly like could have been the Beatles, right? It's kind of strange,
Yeah.
but yeah, Terry Draper left us this year at age 73, member of that band throughout their entire career.
All right. So my next one is Paul Mary O'Day, who was one of the early Iron Maiden singers, and then he was in the band More. He isn't on my favorite More album that I rave about all the time, Blood and Thunder, but he's on the
Right.
first one, um, Warhead. But I appreciated him most for this band, Wildfire. And this band, unfortunately, the recordings aren't the greatest on here. Maybe even the performances aren't the greatest. But the songs are super, super sturdy. It just feels like they should have put more work into them. These are a little rough and tumble for how great the songs are on these records. But that was what he was kind of known for. He'd been in a few other situations as well. That would be him sitting in the middle there. They're looking at what a new wave of British heavy metal picture, a late period, right? With
Yeah.
the rising suns and all that, the stripes and the jackets, and then on the first one they're looking a little more heavy. But yeah, there's some amazing talking about your golden earring. Yeah, there are 3 or 4 songs on Summer Lightning here that you just think should have been massive, massive hits. Great voice too. He had one of these really clean voices. He had some vibrato to it as well. So Cancer, July 29th, age 69. Not very old.
I don't own either one of those. I probably should rectify that.
Oh yeah.
That's good stuff. I love that album cover on the one of them. It's great.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, we're going to go to the kind of like the jazz, funk, and soul world. We lost the great Roy Ayers this year, earlier this year, March 4th, at age 84. Of course, started out as an acclaimed vibes player and percussionist. He played with like everybody that you can name it in soul, funk, and jazz and R&B. But then he became more of like a producer and songwriter. And again, sticking in kind of like the jazz, soul, and funk, over 30 albums as a leader and countless appearances on all sorts of other records. I mean, this guy's got an enormous discography, and he apparently had been ill for quite a long time. They have not stated what he actually died from, but he had a very, very long illness. So the great Roy Ayers, March 4th, age 84.
All right. My next one is from a great Canadian band, Kick-Axe. It's Larry Gilstrom. We lost him to cancer. He's the guitarist, August 14th, at the age of 70. Um, I rave about this album all the time.
Great one. Yeah.
It's a strange record where it's not obvious what's so great about it because it can be kind of thumpy and sparse. But one of the great things about it is George Christon as a lead singer, as a vocalist and frontman. He was just seemed like he was a superstar. But then the band kind of petered out a little bit. This was a little bit watered down sort of album, not as heavy, not as good. It's a great shot of the band on the back there. But yeah, they're from the prairies, and Larry was, yeah, lead guitarist. I'm looking at the back here, 6-string acoustic guitars, rhythm guitars, and vocals. So he did backing vocals and stuff as well. So, and they came back. Actually did one more, and then they eventually had a reunion album, maybe even 2, but they definitely had at least one, and they toured and stuff. But yeah, that's a guy that I noticed there was a fair bit on Facebook about him when he passed. So the great Kick-Axe.
Yeah, that's such a great album. So, so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, we're going to stay in metal here. Frederick Lindgren, founding member, guitar player of Unleashed, left us, I believe, either my birthday, January 5th or January 6th, at the age of 53, really young. Like Swedish, death metal legends unleashed, such an important band to the whole death metal scene, certainly to the extreme metal scene over in Scandinavia. He played on their first four albums, highly, highly influential. He eventually did leave the band and participated in many other bands. Probably the most notable was Loud Pipes, which were more of kind of like a hardcore punk band, and then Terra Firma, who were more of like kind of like a stoner rock and doom band. But yeah, way too young to go, age 53, Fredrik Lindgren, hugely influential to the Swedish scene on January 6th.
Yeah, I love Unleashed. Unleashed is
Yeah.
another one of those bands that if you play that game, if you could only have one catalog for the rest of your life, here's one that I go, I keep forgetting about these guys. I should be playing them more. And every time I play them, I go on a little Unleashed kick. So they're
Yeah, and they're
yeah.
so good live still to this day. I saw them a couple years ago, and I was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I just look at so many albums too, though. That's one of those like retirement bands you always talk about, right?
Exactly, exactly. All right. So, sticking kind of in the same world, my next one is Thomas Lindberg at the gates. We lost him in September 16th, age 52. That seems young. I suppose it's
Yeah,
correct. But adenoid cystic carcinoma. He had cancer kind of in his head, in his throat and stuff. But so yeah, so we've got to meet him as well. He was so nice. There's some at the gates for you, some this is considered obviously one of the key melodic death metal bands kicking up, and then he was part of Lockup, Great Deceiver as well. He's long catalog with all these different bands. He was just such a great metalhead. Loved his metal, loved his punk.
yeah, I
But yeah, super important band. I think it was in the Crown as well, wasn't he? Um,
believe so. Yeah,
but yeah, Thomas Lindberg and just reminds me of when I was out and about and seeing all these guys and meeting them all. I'm glad I did because a lot of them are gone now.
yeah,
These metal guys that would come and play. Tim and I always marvel at for the longest time when we ran Brave Words, we thought we'd never see anybody ever from Europe, right? Because we started the magazine in '94 and
yep.
metal was on kind of a low ebb.
Oh yeah,
And
historically.
it took there to be like a stoner rock scene and then Hammerfall and power metal and then for black metal to kind of maintain, and then all of a sudden all these bands from Europe were coming and playing all these various size clubs around town, right?
Yeah,
And
oh yeah.
it was we were amazed that we ever saw anybody from Europe, and then it almost seemed like that's all you would get. You would just get tons and tons of
That's,
in
the
every
late
genre.
90s into the early 2000s, most of the bands I was seeing were all from overseas.
Yeah.
They were constantly coming over. I mean, every other week you would see, Scar Symmetry or Hammerfall or Soilwork or
Yep.
I mean, there's or Dimmu Borgir. I mean, every time you turned around, Enslaved and
Yep.
Emperor. I mean, they were just constantly coming over and playing. I was going to New York City like every week to see all these bands.
Yep.
Yeah, it doesn't happen as much anymore, right? Well, right now anyway. So
Yep.
getting tougher and tougher to get here, it seems.
Well, I noticed in Toronto, I mean, a lot of, I mean, it still happens, but a lot of the main venues that had all this stuff are have moved on from metal. It seems
Yeah.
there's just a trend going where they don't have metal bands anymore.
Yeah, that's the same here. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, sticking in metal, another young one. Russ North, vocalist for new wave of British heavy metal band Cloven Hoof, passed away right at the beginning of the year, January 1st, at the age of 59. So Cloven Hoof, one of the more obscure bands from the new wave of British heavy metal scene, but he sang on their self-titled debut, as well as their album Dominator and A Sultan's Ransom. So definitely a band to check out if you're into the whole movement and trying to find new bands to listen to from the new wave of British heavy metal scene. And what he did after he left the band, I don't have any other information on, and there's really not a lot of information on his passing, but he did die on the first of the year at the age of 59. Russ North.
All right. So my final one is Chris Straja, Yardbirds. So there's we got to meet him here in Toronto and sit down for an interview with Jim McCarty as well. But I appreciated I liked that sort of reunion thing. And it was a great show. And they had, oh, now that I'm thinking about it, they had singing for him. I can't remember his name, but he also was in Cactus, and he I think he played a mean harmonica as well. So that was a really neat show, and they had great sound as well. But yeah, there's another Box of Frogs album. So I got these as a new release, and I was really into them. And I don't know how you would describe these, just kind of blues rock,
Yeah, pretty
kind
much.
of
Yeah.
hardish hitting blues rock. And so Chris Dreja, in fact, one of the neat things about him, maybe it's Drea, um, he became a fairly renowned photographer. I think late in life, that was one of his big things. So he had a stroke. He had COPD. Died in a nursing home, September 25th, age 78. That's my last one.
Okay. My last one is drummer Tommy Price, who passed away October 10th at the age of 68. Of course, drummer for the band Scandal, played on that big album, The Warrior, right? That was the big album for Scandal. He played on that, but also played with Joan Jett and the Blackhearts for nearly 30 years. A fixture in that band for a long, long time. Also did a stint in Billy Idol as well. He passed away this past October after a very short illness. Again, not a lot of information given, but yeah, one of the guys who if you were a fan of like 80s, early 90s rock, he was a fixture on the scene for many, many years. Great look, really, really good drummer. Tommy Price left us this year at the age of 68.
Yeah. Yeah, and there were a lot more on the list. I mean, you can go to Wikipedia. They do a really good job of having a good long list of this. So there's a lot we didn't talk about, and then of course there's all the ones we did shows on as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
It's nice to sort of
And Donna,
catch
I
up on
mean,
all this.
and Martin, maybe you should just say a little bit about Donna Gottschalk because I didn't
Yes.
talk about her because I think that's, we do have a lot of Dead fans here on the channel.
Yeah,
So
I was going to include her. I mean, I love her material. I thought the records she did with Grateful Dead were the very best ones. I love Terrapin Station and Shakedown Street. I love Cats Under the Stars with Jerry Garcia Band. Loved her voice. I did a little thing on Facebook. I didn't do a contrarians thing on her, but just loved her vocals, the way she did duet singing a little bit with Jerry as well. But that is absolutely my favorite of that period. They had she had that solo album with Keith, because Keith Godchaux was a
yeah.
keyboardist that died. I think he was a car accident. I mean, there's that whole strange thing with all the Grateful Dead keyboardists dying, kind of thing, right? But yeah, I some of those records are some of my favorite records of all time that she was on. And I did a History in Five Songs podcast episode on the five greatest songs of all time, like the best written songs, the absolute genius songs. And I put in there Grateful Dead France, and to Grateful Dead fans, yeah, that is an incredibly divisive love it or hate it song for some reason. And I wonder if it's a little bit of misogyny about Donna being in the band or whatever. I don't know what it is, but um, that around Facebook, a lot of people just like came down on me like a ton of bricks for that. That's one of their worst songs. And then other people were saying, "Thank you for picking that. It's one of the greatest songs they ever did." If you play that, I impel people to go play that song because just the construction of it, it's complicated yet so poppy and hooky. It just sounds like the work of smarty pants geniuses. It's just such a beautifully crafted song. So that's and Dawn is a big part of that song.
You have to want, I always thought that she brought a lot of class to the Dead. Not that their music wasn't classy, but I just there
Mhm.
was something about her, and you have to wonder if some like hardcore Deadheads kind of always had an issue with that. It's like, well, the Dead aren't supposed to be classy, right? They do it's you can't change the what we love about this band so much. But I think she added a nice element to the band, and those
It's funny you bring that up because to me, the Dead struck me as a little bit of a boys' club, right?
well, of
It just
course,
seemed
yeah.
like the bikers liked them, and it's guys in the band and free love and all that kind of thing, even though they had a lot of female fans, and it wasn't aggressive, misogynist, heavy metal music or anything like that, but you've got the skull thing and there's just kind of like there's just this strange couple of male streaks or male narratives in that band. So it was jarring. It's jarring having her in the band. That's for sure.
Yeah.
It is pretty cool when things like that happen, right? Like Russian a female drummer and whatnot, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's just there's these, arch enemy. Um, so it's interesting when it happens, but yeah, it did seem kind of weird, and I think people for her whole tenure in that band, I think just the debate just went on and on. Why is she in this band, kind of thing, right?
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think yeah, all bands have their eras, right? And I think she was just a big part of that era of the band, and I think she was an important part of that time in the band. So
yeah,
yeah, those are some pretty. I mean, Terrapin Station is a wonderful, wonderful album. Yep.
yeah. Beautifully recorded too.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely,
The
absolutely.
production's amazing. Yeah.
All right, so we can only hope that 2026 doesn't bring upon a large list of these passings like it did this year, but you know that's it's inevitable, right?
It
It's just
will.
yeah, I know. You say
Yeah,
this every year, we're like,
yeah.
and for those of you watching, wondering why we haven't talked about Ozzy or whoever this year, it's like in this episode because we spent a lot of time talking about the major ones, so we wanted to just basically hit on some of these artists that left us that we haven't really given much thought to or talked about much. So yeah. So, but we'll see what 2026 holds in store for us. Hopefully, no major ones, but
Yeah.
as Martin said, don't hold your breath on that because it's life, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So down below, let us know your thoughts on any of these folks that we talked about today. And Martin, before you go, uh, what's happening over with the Contrarians and the podcast and new books and things like that?
Yeah, there's always things happening on the Contrarians. I knocked off a few things yesterday. We did a little review of the Guns N' Roses couple of songs, and I've got a little Iron Maiden, another little Black Sabbath thing coming up. And the audio podcast is still once a week, History in Five Songs with Martin Popoff, and the big books. Actually, there's a bunch of them I just stuck up there. The
Yep.
big, huge, Deep Purple, the Dio, that's all at martinpopoff.com, and the Maiden and all those updated ones that came out recently. With the Accept, actually, just went on overnight, so I put a Facebook post about that. So you can get
Cool.
the updated version of the Accept book, which has been out of print for I don't know 7 or 8 years, something like that.
Nice. Very cool. So head over to martinpopoff.com and get your orders in for the holidays, right? Because we're counting down. It's already the 5th.
I'm
With
doing
one
some
day.
today, signed to other people. So
There you
yeah,
go. There you go. So get your orders in, and we'll see you back here in just a little bit, in a few hours here on the channel. We've got, of course, Ken Golden coming in for the Professor's Picks. A lot of cool releases coming out today, so do not miss that show. Tonight we've got 4 Fusion Friday. So for all you Fusion fanatics, tune into that. We got 4 really cool albums we're going to be talking about tonight. And then tomorrow we have album homework assignment. Got a few episodes for you. And then Sunday. I will be joined by John Gaffney and Rich Catino. We're going to be ranking the albums of the great Hellstar. So for all you 80s metal fans, tune in. A really great catalog, and the band is still firing strong today. So 10 albums, we're ranking them all. That'll be happening on Sunday. So till then, visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram all the damn time. Please subscribe if you haven't already and click on that notification bell so you get alert of all of our content as it posts. And please do hit the like button before you leave. For Martin Popoff, I'm Pete Pardo. Enjoy your holidays, everybody. We'll see you back here at the Funhouse in very early January. Till then, have a good one, everybody. Take care. Bye bye.